Hello, Easy English Spark family. I'm thrilled to see you back in our cozy learning house, ready to supercharge your English listening and speaking skills and shine brighter than ever. Over the next few videos, we'll journey through a simple but inspiring 10-chapter story, from glittering success to hard-earned lessons to a purposeful new horizon. Each chapter is your chance to hear real-world language in action, practice speaking along, and pick up vocabulary that sticks. So grab your notebook, settle in, and let's spark up your English together. One chapter, one conversation, and one confident sentence at a time. Chapter 1. Zenith of Ambition. Picture this. Ethan Caldwell standing barefoot on the marble balcony of his glass-walled penthouse, 24 stories above the restless Pacific. Dawn is still stretching its pink fingers across the horizon, and the city below lies hushed, as though it knows it has nothing more to offer him than what he already possesses. Waves roll in like applause beneath him, gulls wheel overhead, and for one brief moment the salt breeze lifts the edge of his silk robe, a robe hand-stitched in Florence, dyed the deep blue of midnight ink. He smiles, because even the wind seems eager to serve him. Inside, the day's choreography is already underway. Automated blinds sweep upward to bathe every room in gold. Heated floors stir to life. Hidden speakers slip orchestral notes through the halls. In the kitchen, Chef Marco, imported from a 3-Michelin-star restaurant in Modena, prepares Ethan's customary breakfast. A truffle-infused omelette folded with Gruyere aged in alpine caves, accompanied by coffee brewed from beans that touch the earth of a single Rwandan hillside. Marco's movements are precise, reverent. He knows that perfection is merely Ethan's baseline. As Ethan steps back indoors, the penthouse greets him like a faithful kingdom. A private elevator stretches from underground parking, where a slate-gray Lucid Air and a vintage Ferrari 250 GT rest beneath museum-grade lights, straight to the rooftop helipad. Beside the elevator, a climate-controlled wine gallery glows, amber behind bulletproof glass. Labels read like museum plaques. A 1945 Mouton Rothschild, a Screaming Eagle Magnum, a vertical of DRC that could ransom small countries. Everywhere he looks, objects testify to his triumph. Minimalist sculptures commissioned from rising Nordic artists, a handmade Persian silk rug that took 4 weavers 2 years to knot, a walk-in closet arranged by color gradient and season. At precisely 6:45 a.m., Amelia, his executive assistant, arrives via the service entrance, tablet in hand. She recites the morning brief, Overnight downloads of the flagship app have crossed 8 million. Shares in Caldwell Tech closed 7 points higher after news of a rumored acquisition. Forbes has requested another cover shoot. Ethan listens. Half amused, half expectant. The way an emperor listens to census figures. In his head, numbers feel like guitar strings under familiar fingers. To him, future revenue exists as tangibly as the marble beneath his feet, merely unpolished stone waiting for his chisel. He sits at the long ebony dining table, its surface cut from a single Indonesian tree older than electricity, and breakfast arrives on Limoges porcelain. Steam curls from the omelette as Amelia slides a second report before him. Venture capital firms are wooing him for a Series E round, each more desperate than the last. Ethan forks a slice of truffle, tastes earth, and sun and rain and the impossible patience of nature, and he thinks, I built all this before I turned 33. What really can't I do? After breakfast, he retreats to the study, a library of floor-to-ceiling walnut shelves. Rare first editions of Ada Lovelace's notes and Alan Turing's computing machinery rest beside biographies of titans he no longer considers unreachable. In the center hangs a digital map of global user traffic, continents pulsing with data points. Ethan runs 2 fingertips across the glass. Servers in São Paulo ramp up. Servers in Singapore edge down. Little symphonies responding to his touch. He almost pities anyone whose world doesn't move when their hands do. At 9, the day shifts into its second act. A chauffeur waits at street level with the Lucid. Ethan settles into the back seat, leather scented with cedar oil, and the car glides through morning traffic like a shark through water. Pedestrians on the pavement tilt phones toward him, eyes wide. Even behind tinted windows, he feels their hunger to trade places, and he lets the thought warm him. He scrolls social feeds, articles praising his donation to an urban tech incubator, paparazzi shots from last night's rooftop concert, a DM from a film director begging for an executive producer check. Fame and power weave together like double strands of DNA. Ethan simply breathes, and they multiply. By 10, he steps into Caldwell Tower, headquarters of his empire. The lobby bursts with light from a skylit atrium. Living walls of greenery climb 30 feet, irrigated by recycled rainwater, a vanity project disguised as sustainability. Employees line the walkway, exchanging glances. There goes the visionary who turned a dorm room codebase into a platform that reinvented micropayments. He nods, offers a slow grin that says, I see you seeing me. In the boardroom on the 42nd floor, Partners wait with iced, sparkling water. They talk of expansion into VR hardware, of patent filings, of building a campus that will eclipse Apple Park. Ethan signs papers worth more than entire city blocks without a flicker of doubt. Lunch is on the upper deck of his yacht, Meridian, moored in a private marina. A sous vide salmon topped with edible orchids arrives just as his helicopter departs for the mainland, ferrying a politician eager for campaign backing. Ethan spreads design mock-ups across the teak table, sleek wearables that promise to upend the fitness market, while sunlight flickers off the bay. Investors text warnings about rising interest rates. Ethan replies with a winking emoji and, "Watch me." He believes risk bows to genius, and genius, of course, wears his face. Afternoon drifts into evening. Back on shore, Ethan appears at a startup pitch contest as a surprise judge, dropping casual promises of seed money and basking in the awe that ripples through the room. He is the sun, and fledgling entrepreneurs orbit him, hoping for a spark. A young founder stammers praise, eyes shining. Ethan clasps the kid's shoulder, grants a selfie, and moves on, satisfied with the omnipotence of shaping someone's week, maybe their life, with a single nod. Twilight finds him again on the penthouse balcony, sipping Japanese whiskey cut with a single sphere of crystal ice. City lights shimmer like scattered diamonds. Helicopters buzz in the distance. Somewhere below, waves still break upon rocks, unstoppable yet insignificant from this height. Ethan's phone vibrates. News that his net worth has crept another notch upward thanks to after-hours trading in Tokyo. He pockets the device, exhales, and considers tomorrow's to-do list. Finalize the Maldives villa purchase. Green light. A documentary about his rise. Dine with a Nobel laureate exploring quantum batteries. He feels a burst of satisfaction so keen it borders on pain. Looking out over the water, Ethan whispers to no one, "Limitless." The word hangs in the air, a private anthem. Every visible horizon seems smaller than his appetite. Tonight, as always, he will sleep beneath a ceiling that retracts to show constellations, believing the stars themselves exist merely to remind him how high a human can ascend. And as the moon slips above the skyline, washing silver across the glass, Ethan Caldwell is certain of one thing beyond all doubt. The peak is a palace, and he is its rightful king, untouchable, unassailable, ordained by his own brilliance to stay forever at the very zenith of ambition. Chapter 2. Echoes of excess. Ethan Caldwell's calendar became a kaleidoscope of glittering commitments, each more outrageous than the last. A single week might find him chartering a G700 to Monaco for a midnight poker match in the hold of a decommissioned submarine, then racing back to Los Angeles in time to sprinkle rose petals from a drone swarm at sunrise over a Hollywood Hills proposal. Someone else's. Naturally. But Ethan financed the theatrics for the sheer thrill of making strangers gasp. His signature, once a crisp flourish on digital term sheets, now decorated every vanity in reach. An electric blue racehorse in Dubai, a rainforest preservation fund staffed by influencers, a line of smart scents that paired blockchain with perfume. He did not invest so much as scatter money like seeds in the wind, convinced every bill would blossom into admiration. On Wednesday evenings, he hosted Wavelength, an invitation-only salon atop a defunct air traffic tower that he converted into a nightclub. To enter, guests rode a transparent elevator past whirring art installations, kinetic sculptures made of repurposed satellite dishes that reflected laser constellations onto the city below. Inside, mixologists built cocktails around sound frequencies. Drink the 440 Hz, taste violet and mint, sip the 808 Hz, feel chili and smoke. Between sets, Ethan took the circular stage, not to perform, but simply to stand beneath a halo of ultraviolet light, letting applause roll over him like surf. His company's finance chief, Mara Ng, tried to temper the frenzy. She slid spreadsheets under his espresso cup, charts of cash burn, margins eroding faster than Antarctic ice. Ethan glanced at the numbers the way one glances at weather in a faraway country. Interesting, but irrelevant. Mara, he said, tapping the tabletop like a metronome. Panic is an option. It's just never mine. He flashed a grin so practiced, it felt made of porcelain. Mara left his penthouse that night with the uneasy sense of watching a man applaud the speed of his own avalanche. The tech press, sensing clicks, crowned him the Oracle of Indulgence. Ethan fed the myth. He commissioned a 10-story mural of himself on the side of Caldwell Tower, half face, half circuitry, eyes beaming LiDAR rainbows into downtown traffic. He purchased a Cold War radar dome in Alaska purely to livestream auroras onto his company's website headers. When venture capitalists questioned the ROI, he quoted Whitman, "I contain multitudes," and offered them another chance to triple their buy-in before the next round left them behind. Fear of missing out greased every decision. They wired funds before the call disconnected. Meanwhile, product teams slogged through late-night sprints to keep pace with Ethan's inspirations. He ordered them to build an AR marketplace for vintage sneakers, then pivoted 2 weeks later to an AI-driven matchmaking service for retired athletes because an Olympian mentioned loneliness over brunch. Departments overlapped like circus rings. Burn rates eclipsed projections by tens of millions. But each morning another flattering interview landed. Another podcast hailed him as the mind of a generation, and the stock inched upward on charisma alone. To celebrate breaching a $10 billion valuation, paper money stacked on a foundation of helium, Ethan staged the Gravity Gala, a black tie event in a Zeppelin hangar outside San Francisco. Guests arrived via tethered jetpacks and drifted beneath an upside-down banquet table suspended from the rafters. Chefs cooked on mirrored grills overhead so courses rained softly onto inverted plates below. Every attendee left clutching a limited edition NFT ticket that played a holographic loop of Ethan toasting the crowd with zero-gravity champagne. The stunt cost $12 million and trended for 48 hours. By the time interest waned, he was already blueprinting a pop-up metropolis in the Nevada desert that would bloom for one sunset, then vanish at dawn, leaving only biodegradable art and 500 drone-captured terabytes of memories. Amid the delirium, small tremors cracked the facade. A cloud services invoice quadrupled after an unnoticed traffic spike. A strategic partner postponed payment citing cryptocurrency volatility. A securities regulator requested documents about unusual executive compensation structures. Ethan waved concerns away like gnats. He reassured stakeholders from the back seat of his Bentley Flying Spur, scrolling through an auction app to bid on a Soviet-era spacesuit. "Just imagine the podcast photo," he texted a journalist. One humid Thursday, Mara marched into his office clutching a projection that showed insolvency in 18 months. 12. If marketing expenses continued at the current slope. Ethan, reclining in a massage chair programmed to the heartbeat of Beethoven's Ninth, sipped cold brew foam and replied, "If the runway shortens, we'll just accelerate." He pointed to the skyline. "A phoenix doesn't glide, it erupts." Mara shut her laptop, knowing metaphors could not pay vendors. Late summer brought a private island summit in the Philippines. Ethan flew 50 influencers, a handful of Nobel laureates, and a DJ whose mask cost more than most condos. They lounged in bamboo cabanas strung with 8K screens displaying real-time social media tallies, likes climbing like mercury, retweets flaring like fireworks. At dusk, Ethan unveiled a marble statue of a human hand cradling a lightning bolt. Carved across the base, "Build bridges with thunder." He announced the phrase as the guiding mantra for Caldwell Tech's next phase. What phase? He did not specify. Applause echoed across the lagoon. Stock tickers flickered green. Yet on shore, suppliers waited for overdue wire transfers, and a team in Prague quietly laid off 20 engineers to extend their runway by a quarter. The extravaganzas multiplied. Ethan financed pop-up scholarship funds that covered a semester of tuition, then dissolved once the press cycle crested. He bought an Antarctic ice shelf naming right, dubbing it Caldwell Crest, and live-streaming its melt rate as performance. Art about impermanence. He booked a week-long residency at the International Space Station for an orbital brainstorming retreat, and paid Russian cosmonauts hazard bonuses to film his floating monologues about disruptive synergies. Golf weekends became passé. Ethan invented gravity roulette, renting a parabolic flight jet so guests could hurl crystal decanters of cognac at one another in microgravity. Shattered glass glistened like confetti. Minor cuts were treated by a traveling medic team, and every slow-motion clip scored millions of loops on social media. Wariness seeped into board meetings. Directors whispered about liquidity ratios and covenant breaches. Ethan countered with glossy slides of brand heat maps glowing scarlet across all demographics. Attention is capital, he argued. We're printing currency every time someone double taps. His grin bored into them like sunlight through glass. Eventually, most nodded, dazzled or resigned, but whispers traveled beyond the boardroom. Analysts began noting that Caldwell Tech's user engagement metric counted anyone who paused on an ad for more than half a second. Financial journalists recalled the Emperor's New Clothes parable in cautiously worded op-eds. Short seller. Blogs sniffed blood. Through it all, Ethan posted sunset selfies from his infinity pool, captioned with stoic aphorisms about daring greatly. Likes still showered him, but comments grew sharper. How does this scale? What happened to the VR launch? Are creditors funding these fireworks? The chorus of skepticism sparked only a higher pitch of spectacle. Ethan leased a defunct aircraft carrier, anchored it off Catalina, and rebranded it as the world's first floating accelerator. Startups were invited to build prototypes on the flight deck while drones filmed their progress for a streaming series. The premiere party featured synchronized swimmers spelling out ticker symbols in phosphorescent wetsuits. Investors mingled, laughing uneasily as invoices piled up in waterproof envelopes. Under neon floodlights, Ethan felt unbeatable. Yet at 3 a.m., long after the brass section fell silent and guests wobbled back to cabins, he sometimes paced the empty hangar thinking of nothing in particular, just the vast echo under steel arches, the way footfalls vanished into gloom. In those hours, the carrier felt less like a playground and more like a mausoleum of ambitions too loud to die quietly. Still, dawn came. He donned mirrored sunglasses, and another tweet rocketed skyward, shiny enough to blind the faithful for one more day. So the cycle churned. Spectacle, acclaim, expense, denial. Each revolution faster, brighter, hotter, until the very momentum that lifted Ethan seemed poised to tear his empire apart. Yet he pressed the throttle, hungry for that final roar of applause, deaf to the thin whine of engines pushed beyond design. Echoes of excess ricocheted through every corridor of his life. And though the first hairline cracks had begun to appear, he could not slow down. He never had. He never would. At least not until the noise collapsed into silence. Chapter 3. The First Fracture. Imagine a champagne flute balanced on the edge of a marble table. From across the room, you see a hair-thin crack slide down its stem, invisible to the guests still cheering the toast. That was how the trouble began. Quiet, as a spider strand, almost graceful in its first appearance. It started on an otherwise radiant Tuesday. I had flown overnight from the aircraft carrier Accelerator to New York for a breakfast summit with Halliday Capital, the anchor funder of our next expansion. The Marriott ballroom smelled of bergamot and fresh paint. LED spotlights ringed a circular stage where I was meant to unveil Caldwell Tech's Phase Infinity. I wore a charcoal suit hand-woven in Kyoto and a tie that shifted color under fluorescent light, an optic trick designed to keep cameras guessing. Confidence fitted me like second skin. When the double doors swung open, though, the crowd inside startled me. No orchestra warming up, no velvet rope of reporters, just 6 partners seated around a bare oak table. No pastries either, only still, water sweating in unlabeled bottles. Gerard Halliday, founder and patriarch, rose but did not extend his hand. The screens behind him remained dark. "Ethan," he said, voice a notch too steady. "We've been reviewing revised projections." He invited me to sit. I didn't. The crack in the champagne glass lengthened. A single click and a spreadsheet hit the wall behind him. Burn rate highlighted in nuclear red. Cash runway calculated in weeks, not years. Below, disclosure footnotes flagged material uncertainty regarding going concern status. Figures Mara had shown me, yes, but dressed here in stark Arial, stripped of my metaphors. Halliday clasped his hands. Our board cannot lead this round. We're pulling the term sheet. Silence collapsed over the room, thick as snowfall. My throat tasted of iron. I unleashed every polished counterargument, user acquisition curve, brand equity, network effects, but the partners had heard them all. We believe you've become over-indexed on spectacle, Halliday said, as if diagnosing a disease. We need operating discipline, not optical velocity. I felt something inside me flicker. Embarrassment? No. That was a language I'd forgotten. Rage tried to rise, but an older cousin of rage, fear, pinned it down. For the first time in years, I pictured failure not as a distant cautionary tale, but as a door left ajar, allowing night air to pour in. I left without breakfast, the tie still shimmering in colors no one cared to name. The rumor mill. By dusk, the news leaked. Halliday withdraws, Caldwell tech funding in doubt. FinTwit buzzed like a wasp nest kicked open. Hashtags mutated into memes. My Zeppelin banquets reduced to Titanic comparisons. My orbital retreats called stratospheric vanity projects. In offices around the world, analysts who once wrote odes to my disruptive audacity quietly changed their price targets and added words like liquidity crunch and governance risk. Back at headquarters, the air felt heavier. Receptionists avoided eye contact. I caught developers reading articles with my face above the fold, their tabs vanishing as I passed. When I reached my corner suite, the custom hologram map of global users lagged, a stutter in its previously fluid dance. Even code seemed unwilling to perform for me. I pivoted straight to the war room. Glass walls, neon backlighting, a live ticker slithering around the ceiling. Mara awaited, dark circles under her eyes. You know, she said, once a withdrawal goes public, secondaries dry out fast. She gestured to a line graph that waterfall dropped like a cliff. Vendors are shortening payment terms. Cloud credits expire in 60 days. We pivot, I insisted. We spin up a community bond, crowd-funded loyalty shares, gamify the SO, cap table. Ethan, they don't trust the story anymore. Those words hit harder than any balance sheet deficit. For years my story had bent markets, magnetized capital, rewired expectations. Without it, every number froze into its literal meaning. I felt gravity recalibrate. Operational snags. Days later, the first product snag surfaced. Pulse Mesh, our new wearable line teased on yacht decks and late-night talk shows, failed FCC certification. A subcomponent overheated, scraping past safe skin thresholds. The launch delay meant canceled influencer campaigns, shipping containers idling at port, and a contractual penalty with our assembly partner in Shenzhen. $17 million evaporated before lunch. Then the Aurora Dome live stream, my Alaskan radar station. Art piece went offline after a generator fire. Insurance investigators labeled it preventable negligence. The live stream had been quietly racking up subscriber fees tied to ad inventory. When the feed died, advertisers demanded clawbacks. Emails piled like snowdrifts, legal, compliance, facility damage assessments. Each beep of my phone sounded like a ticking clock, cracks at the core. One Wednesday evening, I hosted Wavelength anyway, defiance disguised as continuity. The elevator hummed upward. Ultraviolet strobes painted the tower's rusted struts. But attendance was thin. The DJ played to gaps on the dance floor. I took the stage. Applause clapped once, then faltered. I spoke of limitless horizons, yet my voice felt smaller, swallowed by metal and plexiglass. Afterwards, in the service corridor, I overheard two guests. Looks desperate, doesn't it? He's chasing his own shadow. Their laughter drifted like ash. At 3 a.m., alone on the balcony, I noticed the mural of my half-digital face across Caldwell Tower's facade. Spotlight bulbs had burned out, leaving my eyes dark, the circuitry half-lit, as if corruption had infected the wiring. I texted facilities, replace bulbs before sunrise. Minutes later, the reply blinked. Work order delayed. Vendor on hold for payment. Investor exodus. By Friday, 3 mid-tier funds converted their preferred shares to common and dumped them at market open. Caldwell Tech's stock price slipped 30%, then 40% in after-hours trading. Margin calls nipped at my personal holdings. I wired collateral from a brokerage account to keep lenders calm. I convened an emergency board meeting. Directors dialed in from muted islands of calm. Their pixelated faces seemed carved from granite. We need austerity, Mara opened, projecting a survival plan. layoffs, asset sales, equity carve-outs. I counter-proposed a moonshot. Spin up a satellite network to beam free Wi-Fi to underserved regions, monetized through data analytics. The board stared, a stunned choir. Finally, Chairwoman Nia Barlow folded her glasses. "Ethan," she said softly, "we're discussing lifeboats, not luxury cruises." The room's silence told me I had lost them. Personal fallout. At home, letters arrived, formal, cold. The space station retreat canceled for mission-critical scheduling revisions. The Soviet spacesuit auction house demanded payment within 72 hours or risk legal action. Even the electric blue stallion in Dubai, my live embodiment of velocity, stood on an auction block. The trainer sent a photo. The horse's eyes mirrored mine, large and uncertain. Friends who once FaceTimed from private jets now replied with emoji excuses. My phone's bright world dimmed to system alerts and overdue notices. I scrolled contact lists thick as novellas, only to realize how many names depended on open bars and helicopter rides. I set the device down, its screen black as deep water. One night I walked into the penthouse wine gallery expecting solace only to find humidity alarms blinking. The climate unit had power cycled after an unpaid utility bill, letting heat seep in. Labels curled, corks dried. A 1945 Mouton Rothschild, history in glass, stood wounded, sediment swirling like a snow globe of regret. I pictured decades of vines and vintners, care and patience, undone by my inattentive excess. That vision broke something. I sat on the floor, truffle rug forgotten, and felt the quiet expand until even the ocean's surf below sounded like applause for another man. Confronting the numbers. Mid-month, Mara produced a 12-week insolvency grid. Payroll default loomed 8 Fridays away. Vendor lines of credit? Gone. Convertible debt's ratchet clause threatened catastrophic dilution if share price slid further. I argued, bargained, roared. We'll announce a strategic partnership tomorrow. Unlock deferred revenue. Sell the carrier accelerator. Series to streaming. She shook her head. Reputation risk is priced in. Buyers smell distress. We need cash, not headlines. For the first time, I noticed her laptop sticker. Numbers don't care about your narrative. It glowed like a warning you only see after the crash. We worked overnight slicing budgets. Wavelength, canceled. Gravity roulette flights. grounded. The mural's spotlight bulbs, deleted line item. Maintenance crew would later say the unlit circuitry looked poetic, a city-scale elegy. At dawn, I emailed employees. We are streamlining to prepare for the next leap. Corporate euphemism for cuts. Half the staff received separation notices by noon. HR wept in glass pods while I hid in my office, eyes fixed on a terminal streaming red. Layoffs buoyed the stock $2. Relief felt dirty, like pawning heirlooms, to feed a furnace. The slipstream. Late spring storms rolled across the coast. Lightning cracked above my penthouse like nature's paparazzi. One evening, power flickered out, and emergency lights painted everything in surgical blue. Alone, I watched skyscraper windows wink dark one by one, each a cautionary tale of what hubris could hollow. Somewhere below, surfers rode waves I could not hear, moving by instincts unshackled from markets or valuations. I envied them, their balance atop forces larger than ego. For years I had called myself a surfer of trends. Now I felt more like driftwood. At 3:17 a.m., a final email arrived. Halliday Capital executed its withdrawal clause, claiming breakup fees that drained our main operating account. The crack in the champagne flute reached the rim. A snap I couldn't hear signified total fracture. I stood at the wall of glass, city lights blurred by rain. I lifted the tie that changed colors and watched lightning bleach it to plain gray. In that flash I understood. Brilliance does not immunize against gravity. Vision cannot outshout arithmetic forever. The first fracture had become a fault line, and beneath my feet the ground began to shift. What once felt like applause now sounded like distant thunder, rolling closer. I realized the next chapter would not be written in marble boardrooms or ultraviolet nightclubs. It would unfold in the rubble of assumptions under fluorescent debt collection. Letters in places where no drones hovered to sprinkle rose petals. The marble balcony door rattled, wind pushing against the seal. I exhaled, tasting ozone and a memory of salt. Somewhere behind me, systems failed in silent cascades, servers powering down, elevators locking in place, a mural eye flickering its last lumen. The palace on the peak was dark, and the climb ahead would begin in shadow. I turned off the remaining lights myself and stepped into the quiet, carrying nothing but the echo of excess and the faint, alarming knowledge that the story could no longer be told by me alone. It would be told by consequence. Chapter 4. Shattered Façade. I used to believe a brand new day obeyed the swipe of my finger, that bad news was a pop-up I could close. The illusion finally burst on a gray Monday when my elevator stalled between the lobby and the street. For 5 long minutes I stood in a gilt-framed box, mirrors cracked with hairline stress marks I had never noticed. The mirrors were me. When the doors lurched open, the building's concierge, normally all smiles, handed me 2 envelopes and looked away. The first bore a law firm crest, Notice of Default, Unit 2401. The second came from the Utilities Board. Electricity to the penthouse would be disconnected within 48 hours unless the balance, an obscene string of digits, was settled. The lobby plants drooped as if eavesdropping on my ruin. Auction week. From that moment the dismantling accelerated. The lucid air left first. A flatbed with corporate logos I didn't recognize winched it away while passers-by filmed and muttered. 30 minutes later, a crew arrived to inventory art pieces for protective custody. A clipboard woman in wraparound glasses ticked off each sculpture. My meteorite coffee table, my Nordic mobiles, like a museum registrar cataloging loot. I tried humor, careful with the 9-million-year-old stone. She didn't smile. Humor requires an audience, and I no longer had one. That evening, I found myself live-streamed on an influencer's story, not as a host but as a curiosity. The caption read, "When the party's over, 1 million views in an hour. Comments stung. Remember the Zeppelin Gala? This is the crash landing. Avatar of Excess is now DLC. Debt-loaded content." Notifications multiplied faster than I could mute them. The internet had crowned a new spectacle, my downfall, and the algorithm served it on repeat. Paper walls. Inside Caldwell Tower, the reaping continued. A forensic auditor, polite as a mortician, unspooled color-coded ledgers across the boardroom. Table, each column a confession. Marketing invoices marked urgent towered like Jenga blocks. Contractors whose names I barely knew, laser engineers, drone choreographers, perfumers with PhDs, filed breach of contract claims. My legal team, once eager gladiators, now wrote emails heavy with passive voice. It may be prudent. We regret to inform. Security badges deactivated without ceremony. One by one, departing employees handed theirs to the guard and exited through a revolving door that suddenly seemed to spin faster. I shook hands, murmured thanks that sounded brittle, then retreated to my office where the hologram map of global users now flickered in epileptic whites. Even Data had abandonment issues. Mara quit on a Thursday. She left her laptop on my desk, lid open to a single spreadsheet cell burning red. 0.00. No note, no goodbye, just the number neither of us could out-talk. The penthouse exodus. 48 hours before the power cut off, I staged a sprint sale. Luxury brokers circled like hawks. A vintner for the wine, a niche watch dealer, a furniture curator specializing in design objects of fallen visionaries. Each offered fractions of retail, cash wired on the spot. I nodded mechanically. Every acceptance felt like signing an organ donor card. Packing crews worked through the night. Bubble wrap muffled the penthouse's emptiness. Hallways once tuned to classical playlists now echoed with packing tape zips. The giant mural downtown came down too. City workers peeled my half-digital face from concrete in the rain. Someone live-streamed the demolition. Commenters spammed tear laughter emojis. At sunrise, I watched the final truck pull away laden with crates. The balcony's glass balustrade reflected a man in gym shoes and a hoodie, clothes I'd found at the back of a closet labeled, "Hiking, see someday." The robe from Florence lay discarded on a silver coat stand, its belt trailing like a defeated flag. I'd planned to spend one last night there, but the silence felt carnivorous. So I stuffed essentials into a duffel and rode the service lift down, leaving keys on a counter that still smelled of truffle omelet ghosts. Ghosts of parties past. For 2 weeks I couch-surfed at apartments I once lent out as influencer crash pads. The owners, people who had sworn allegiance poolsides not long ago, now checked clocks when I spoke, said they had early calls, hinted at guest room renovations. One morning a host texted mid-shower. Just remembered my parents visiting. Kaniyao. You be out by lunch? I toweled off and left water pooling on his marble, unsure if I'd even been angry. My social feeds mutated into a stranger's memoir. Memories surfaced uninvited. Me tossing black card confetti over a DJ booth. Me toasting gravity roulette winners while crystal shards drifted. I watched them like crime scene footage, puzzling over motive. The comments below grew bone cold. Karma carousel. Burn rate meets burnout. Alexa, play Watch the Throne. On mute. I deactivated all accounts and felt phantom vibrations in my pocket for days. Digital ghosts refusing exile. Desk in the warehouse. When friends thinned to rumors, I rented a windowless micro-loft in an old garment district for a monthly rate that once equaled my shoe polish bill. The unit smelled of dust and industrial soap, Pipes rattled at random, intervals like distant applause. A folding cot, a second-hand desk, one porcelain mug that read, "Think Bigger," irony purchased for 50 cents at a thrift shop. I spent mornings on noisy buses to outer borough incubators, pitching truncated versions of my satellite Wi-Fi dream. Receptionists smiled apologetically. "Are pipelines full?" Or "Circle back once revenues stabilize." Revenues. I hadn't spoken that word outside PowerPoint fonts. Now it sounded like oxygen. Afternoons I scoured freelance platforms under an alias, writing product copy, optimizing slide decks for seed stage founders. I proofread mission statements promising to democratize delight, recognizing echoes of my old diction. $20 an hour reclaimed a sliver of dignity because it arrived through effort, not ceremony. Nights blurred into neon and sirens. I learned grocery math. Celery and hummus stretch 4 dinners. Oats beat artisanal espresso shots. The loft's mini-fridge hummed like a lullaby. I slept wearing headphones to drown the city. Unmasking. One weekend I wandered into Caldwell Towers, lobby out of morbid nostalgia. A new logo, slick, lowercase, unfamiliar, hung above reception. The creditor's holding company. My fingerprint no longer registered on the turnstile. A guard asked me to step aside. I pretended confusion, thanked him, and left. Outside, the quiche building's mirrored panels threw my reflection back at me in jagged fragments. I counted 3 lines on my forehead I'd never noticed. Creases born in a single fiscal quarter. I walked until feet ached, ending at the marina where Meridian, my yacht, had once docked. A different flag flew on its mast now, new name laser cut across its stern. I watched strangers clink glasses on the deck where I used to sign 8-figure term sheets. Their laughter drifted over water, free of echo, cutting cleaner than any lawsuit. I thought I'd feel rage. Instead, there was an antiseptic calm, like the hush after a rainstorm, when soaked streets surrender their glitter. For the first time, envy stepped aside and revealed something quieter. Acceptance, raw and unwelcome yet oddly breathable. Letters in the dark. Back at the loft that night, a single bulb flickered above the desk. I unfolded a cardboard box marked archive, the only thing I'd saved from the penthouse office. Inside, scraps of paper, early sketches of the app that started it all. Handwritten notes from days when ambition was still handmade. Between pages lay a photo of 19-year-old me at a hackathon, face smeared with pizza grease, eyes incandescent with possibility. I pinned the photo to the corkboard on the wall. Its edges curled under the draft, but it stayed up. I sat staring until dawn yawned through the high window, painting the bricks citrus. The world stretched the same color it had the first day I coded my first line, fresh. My phone, finally quiet of alarms and litigation pings, buzzed once. A former intern, one I barely remembered, had messaged, "Saw the news. If you ever need a coffee or just to talk, I'm around." No ask, no angle, just a lifeline I hadn't earned. I typed back, "Coffee sounds good. My treat, though it might be drip, not artisanal." A stupid joke, but typing it felt like turning a key I'd long misplaced. The mirror breaks. Before sleeping, I caught my reflection in the dark window. Not the holographic titan, not the ultraviolet idol of wavelength, just a man in thrift store sweats barefoot on concrete. The facade, the curated legend, the highlight reel persona, lay shattered behind me like the champagne flutes of long-dead parties. And though the shards still cut, I could finally feel the floor under my own feet. I whispered into the hush, half confession, half vow. From here, nothing to hide behind. The city outside kept breathing, indifferent yet available. Somewhere buses rumbled, neon flickered, lives collided in ordinary ways I'd once considered below my altitude. They waited now like an uncharted map. I shut off the bulb, lay on the cot, and let the seams of darkness stitch themselves around me. In that stitched silence, I sensed a strange, slender thread of relief. The stage lights were off. The costumes, packed. Whatever act came next would start without pyrotechnics. But maybe it would be real. And real, I realized as sleep finally took me, was a currency no bear market could devalue. Chapter 5. Alone Among Strangers. Morning begins with the stutter of the radiator 2 floors below and the metallic clang of garbage trucks harvesting last night's confetti of takeout boxes. I lie on the cot, counting ceiling cracks like constellations, trying to decide which vein of plaster resembles a promising future. None do. The air in the micro-loft is a dull nickel color, tasting faintly of detergent and rust. I dress in silence. A thrift store Oxford, dark jeans stiff from line drying, shoes that remember better marble, no more biometric watch, no silk pocket square, just a phone with 17% battery and a Metro card loaded for 3 rides. Faces in transit. The M38 bus groans to a halt outside my block, exhaling passengers who dissolve into the sidewalk tide. Board, swipe, and stand clutching the cool pole. Around me, every face is bowed to a screen or chained to a private worry, an office memo, a child care text, a reminder to pick up discount groceries. Nobody looks twice at me. For the first time in years, my anonymity is total. It fits like a borrowed coat. Through fogged windows, I see the city I once surveyed from penthouse glass, now rendered at ground-level scale. Murals of unknown wrappers, bodegas blooming with neon fruit, laundromats dispensing linty warmth. A billboard advertises a fintech startup whose founder once posed for selfies on my yacht. He smiles down without recognition. I wonder if he would pick me out in this bus of 90 silent strangers. Doubtful. Job fair carousel. I disembark near the convention annex, a squat concrete slab pretending to be modern with blue LED ribbons. Inside, a job fair for future-ready talent hums like a hive. Rows of collapsible booths sport banners, Data Vision Logistics, Lynx Micro-Fulfillment, Dough Rise Artisanal Bakery. HR reps dispense lanyards, stress balls, promises. IQ. For entry, resume folder underarm, the paper oddly heavy given how light the words feel now. A young volunteer hands me a name tag and a map dotted with arrows toward opportunity zones. I almost laugh. Opportunity used to come to me wearing Armani. Now it hides behind QR codes linking to application portals that swallow hope faster than they load. At Data Vision, a recruiter named Claire scans my document. Impressive leadership. Experience, she concedes. But do you have direct forklift fleet exposure? I shake my head. She smiles with the sympathy of a nurse who knows the prognosis and motions to the next in line. Lynx Micro-Fulfillment wants part-time shift leads, overnights, heavy lifting, $17 an hour, plus performance tokens. The interviewer, a man younger than my last watch, glances at my past salary bracket and arches an eyebrow. Would you be comfortable in a purely operational role? I almost say comfortable is a luxury condo feature, not a requirement, but swallow the quip and nod. He thanks me for the candor and slides my resume into an unmarked pile I suspect is labeled no. By noon, I've looped the hall twice. My feet ache, my mouth tastes of burnt coffee and self-doubt. Hundreds of people mill around me, each orbiting a gravitational center of need: rent, tuition, medical bills. We share this galaxy of necessity, but our trajectories never intersect. Every greeting is transactional. Every smile default software. Lunch in the neutral zone. Food trucks park along 11th Avenue. Tacos, falafel, grilled cheese. Prices start at $8, a reckless percentage of my daily budget. I keep walking until I spot a church basement offering community meal, suggested donation $2. Inside, folding tables host an eclectic assembly. Delivery cyclists in neon vests, retirees nursing styrofoam cups, a mother rehearsing multiplication tables with her daughter. A volunteer ladles lentil soup, steam rising like fragile optimism. She asks for my name, writes it on a white sticker, and presses it to my shirt, Ethan. Seeing it spelled out in block letters feels surreal, as if I must reintroduce myself to myself. I eat slowly, listening to the murmur of lives I will never headline. The soup is bland but honest. No truffle shavings, no imported salt, just legumes, broth, calories. I chew the bread heel harder than necessary, punishing the hunger that used to masquerade as ambition, seeking shelter in co-working ruins. Afternoon finds me at Forge Hub, a once trendy co-working space now discounted to lure the freelance diaspora. Day pass, $5 if you prove you're unemployed. My severance letter serves as a passport. I settle into a wobbling chair beneath Edison bulbs. Half are unlit to save energy, though the receptionist admitted the overdue utility. Bill is the real dimmer switch. Around me, hopeful keyboard clatter. A pair of college grads brainstorm an eco-sneaker pitch. A middle-aged man edits wedding videos frame by frame. A woman wearing large headphones codes machine learning pipelines between bites of dollar store ramen. Each is alone, yet tethered by Wi-Fi to dreams potentially bigger than rent. Their focused anonymity is contagious. I open my laptop and begin rewriting my resume for the 9th time. Visionary technologist becomes cross-functional problem solver. Scaled multi-million user platform becomes optimized customer journey flows. Words crumble to fit smaller boxes. I feel like resizing a mansion into a studio. When networking means nothing. Forge Hub advertises an evening networking event. Pizza included. I stay, not for the connections, but for the slices. At 6:30, a cluster forms near cold soda cans. Introductions fly, UX strategist, blockchain, educator, EdTech evangelist. When my turn comes, I hesitate, then choose honesty's cheaper cousin. Independent consultant in transition, I say. Eyes glaze. The phrase is pandemic. Nobody digs deeper. A tall man with startup logo glasses corners the group, pitching a tokenized carbon credit marketplace. He needs seed angels with domain clout. I nod, swallow crust, and recall signing 7-figure term sheets on a yacht deck, now auctioned away. The memory feels contraband. I excuse myself to the restroom and stare at fluorescent reflection. Cheeks hollow, tie askew, ramen stain on, cuff. The mirror flickers, power grid hiccup. For a heartbeat, the room plunges black, and in that void, the past is a lantern gone out. Night walk. The city after midnight is an organism with exposed nerves. I choose to walk home rather than feed the Metro card. Side streets hiss with steam grates and catcall with siren Dopplers. Restaurants purge garbage onto curbs. Neon open signs flip to closed like eyelids. I pass a storefront TV playing economic news. A panel debates whether exuberant founders are finally facing accountability. They don't utter my name, but a graphic shows Caldwell Tech's shattered logo beside a stock chart too ugly to ignore. I quicken pace. At a crosswalk, a man in paint-splattered overalls asks, "Got a light?" I shake my head. He notices the resume folder under my arm, chuckles. Job hunt never sleeps, huh? His empathy, unpolished and unsolicited, warms more than a Zippo could. Dialogue with the rooftop back at the loft. I climb the fire escape to the roof, a patchy tar surface, lit by the jaundiced glow of a single security bulb. The skyline stretches jagged and indifferent. From this low vantage, Caldwell Tower appears distant, its new logo a faint bruise against the sky. I speak to it under my breath. You don't own me. I made you. Then you unmade me. Deal settled. Wind answers by rattling an air conditioning vent. Catharsis denied, but something loosens in my chest. Perhaps the last stitch of loyalty to a monument now inhabited by auditors. I linger, staring at other rooftops, brick islands sprouting water, tanks, satellite dishes, a lone tomato plant in a 5-gallon bucket. Someone out there is coaxing life from urban dust. The thought feels instructional. Letters unsent. Downstairs, I draft emails I never send. To Halliday Capital. Your calculus was sound. I would have pulled the plug too. Tomorrow. I understand the spreadsheet cell. I'm working on adding value back to 0. To the intern who offered coffee. Rain check still adjusting to gravity soon. Deleting each draft is less cowardice than acknowledgement that words can't yet repair what numbers wrecked. The stranger in my skin. Sleep dodges me. I sit at the desk staring at the Think Bigger mug, now filled with tap water. A phrase drifts up. You are the sum of your repetitions. My repetitions used to be keynote flights, retina burn slides, investor flattery. Now they are bus rides, resume tweaks, lentil soup. What will that sum look like? Unknown, but undeniably mine. Somewhere in the building a radio murmurs, Spanish. Pop. Footsteps traverse the hallway. The pipes exhale. The chorus of strangers living parallel, intersecting only by shared walls and plumbing, oddly comforts me. Nobody here expects vision statements, only that the boilers stay lit. I open my laptop one more time, not to job hunt but to journal. I write, observation. Survival trains alertness to small mercies. Hostile architecture still offers steps to sit on. Church soup can taste of second chances. Hypothesis. Empire collapses teach literacy in humility. Goal for tomorrow. Learn one. Skills someone would pay $50 honest dollars for. I save the file under a new folder. Rebuild. Logs. Naming the directory feels ceremonial. A ribbon cutting for an invisible storefront. Dawn. Among roommates, I don't know. At 5 a.m., the radiator hiccups back to life, banging pipes like improvisational drums. Light seeps through the high window, pale and hesitant. The city's morning crew, bakers, nurses, subway janitors, has already started its shift. I slip on shoes and head for the corner bodega for 50-cent coffee, joining their anonymous procession. For now, anonymity is not exile. It is refuge. No PR lens, no investor stage, just the quiet fact of being another body in motion. I am alone among strangers, yes, but we occupy the same drafty arc crossing an ocean of rent and deadlines. Their silent company teaches me endurance by osmosis. As I push open the street-level door, cold air slaps awake every nerve. I inhale and feel yesterday's weight settle behind me like a closed tab. Ahead waits another round of questions, rejections, perhaps a small yes. Each yes will be an island, and I intend to swim. The stranger beside me, hood up, earbuds in, steps off the curb. I match his pace, our breaths puffing twin clouds. We don't acknowledge one another. We don't need to. In this chapter, proximity itself is a vocabulary. Traffic lights change. A bus groans northbound. We cross. Chapter 6. Humble Beginnings. The first real offer arrives on a Tuesday that smells of thawing snow and diesel. I am halfway through a stale blueberry muffin, scrolling rejection emails on the steps of the public library, when a push notification dings. Metro Fresh Grocer, interview request 1 p.m. today, 403 Hudson BLD. The address belongs to a warehouse wedged between a discount tire outlet and a graffiti-chewed viaduct. I wipe crumbs from my lap, tuck the laptop into my thrift store messenger bag, and start walking before doubt can rewrite the map. A job measured in miles. Metro Fresh, it turns out, is less a grocery store than a humming logistics organism. Pallets of produce march along conveyor arteries while forklifts dart like cytoplasmic swimmers. A manager named Tessa greets me in an office improvised from wire shelving and clipboards. Her handshake is firm, her gaze quick, scanning for liabilities. She can't afford. Delivery cyclist, she says, tapping the role highlighted on my online application. Contract gig, 1-week trial. You'll need your own wheels. My wheels at present are theoretical. I confess this. She exhales through her nose, then nods toward a corral of battered e-bikes outside the loading bay. $50 deposit. We get it back when you upgrade or flame out. She pushes paperwork across a deli counter desk. You still interested? Do I hesitate? Only long enough to notice my reflection in the dusty plexiglass. An ex-mogul, wearing borrowed confidence. I sign. Within the hour, I'm kitted in a neon orange windbreaker stamped with Metro Fresh in peeling white. The e-bike groans under my weight. Its battery gauge blinks anemically. Tessa hands me a thermal backpack as wide as my torso and an Android phone loaded with the delivery app. Your zone's downtown, she says. Watch bus lanes, brake early on cobblestone, and always text the customer if you're delayed. People tip feelings, not distance. I clip on a helmet that smells of other people's sweat and wheel into the street. Wind knifes through my sleeves, but adrenaline burns hotter. For the first time since the elevator stalled, motion feels like choice. Baptism by asphalt. The app pings. Pickup. Order Doc 2719. Organic mushroom risotto kit. 14 lbs. Warehouse staff slide the insulated tote onto my rack. The scent of basil seeps through the zipper. My phone maps a 5-mile route over potholed avenues and under half-finished high-rises I once planned to buy penthouse views in. I pedal past a digital billboard looping Caldwell Tech's new logo. My name erased. The font cooler. The tagline saccharine. It hurts less than expected. The memory is already scabbing over. A taxi horn drags me back to the moment. I glide between bumpers, ankle clipping a mirror, lungs scraping November air. Every block is a quiz in urban physics, momentum versus caution. I pass. At customer Lashiur 2719's address, a walk-up above a locksmith, I lock the bike, lug the tote upstairs, and knock. A middle-aged man in flannel opens the door, toddler balanced on his hip. He thanks me like I've rescued him from starvation, tips $3, and presses a juice box into my hand, in case you're thirsty out there. The cardboard feels absurdly precious. I pocket it, nod, and descend. The app tallies my first delivery. Base pay, $4.85, tip, $3.00, total, $7.85. I once spent more choosing between 2 shades of charcoal for a yacht deck. But as the digits register, I feel a pulse of pride. This money is reality tested, friction earned. Fellow strivers. By dusk, I have logged 11 orders, 43 blocks, and 1 near collision with a rideshare that cut the bike lane. In the warehouse break room, a corner where pallets form makeshift walls, riders peel off rain slickers and swap survival lore. There's Javier, a former sous chef whose furlough turned permanent. May, a visual effects compositor freelancing between film shoots. Terrence, an ex-gymnast rehabbing a blown Achilles who swears the bike counts as low-impact cardio. We crowd around a space heater, balancing foam clamshells of day-old sushi rescued from the returns pile. Conversation is brisk, unsentimental, but curiously warm. No one cares about resumes or last names. Currency here is reliability. Who covers whose slot when brakes fail? Who knows a safe shortcut after midnight? Who carries spare tire levers? I listen, contribute a joke about corporate jargon, and I'm rewarded with nods that feel like issuance of a temporary passport into their republic of hustlers. Before we disperse, Javier hands me a roll of reflective tape. "Stick some on your backpack," he says. "Cabbies treat you like gutta percha without it." His generosity costs cents, but delivers trust. I accept, realizing how long it's been since anyone offered me practical advice without an invoice. Muscles. And Metric Start Week 2 introduces a new routine, Alarm at 6:15, stretching that aches in unused tendons. Oatmeal cooked on a camping stove in the loft. Gas turned back on after I sold an old DSLR for deposit money. Battery swap at Metro Fresh by 8 hours. Then 8 to 10 hours weaving city arteries. My body toughens in unexpected places. Forearms from stabilizing the handlebar, calves from sprinting yellow lights, core from hoisting totes. Nights end with salt, lines on my jacket and a ledger in the app. Miles, minutes, dollars, ratings. 5 stars safeguard future shifts. A single lukewarm comment can bury tonight's earnings under tomorrow's algorithm. I learn the city's microclimates, which underpass stinks of algae after rain, which avenue funnels wind like a jet nozzle, which bodega lends bathroom keys. Without purchase. I learn customers, too. Mrs. Diaz on West 12th tips in home-baked cookies. The Bachelor in Soho rates everyone 5 stars but never answers his buzzer. Riders leave groceries with the doorman who pockets the tip for building. Maintenance. We share mental watch lists on group chat, passing intel like field agents. Some evenings, exhaustion swallows thought. I collapse onto the cot, muscles humming like downed wires. Yet beneath fatigue lurks a sturdier emotion, satisfaction-sized, to scale. The kind that arrives when effort equals outcome without leverage or spectacle. Small mathematics of survival. Finances now speak in increments I can count on one hand. Fixed costs, $42 weekly bike lease, $280 rent, $35 phone plan. Variables, groceries, rice, beans, eggs, quarterly debt settlement nibbling the edges. Every tip matters. Every flat tire subtracts dinner. I design a spreadsheet. Old habits die pragmatic to track cash flow. The negative numbers shame me into frugality sharper than any finance chief. I allocate envelopes, food, transport, emergency, eventually. Into eventually go crumpled singles saved for the day I buy my own e-bike. My liberation from the warehouse's quietly used fleet. An unexpected kindness. One Friday near midnight. Rain strafes the streets like handwriting only the careless can read. My final run is to an address in Alphabet City. The building's elevator yawns dark. Out of order, so I hoof it 6 flights. At the door, a teenage girl accepts the groceries with glazed eyes. Behind her, a hospital bed cradles a gaunt woman tugging at an oxygen line. The room smells of antiseptic and wilted carnations. I wait for payment confirmation. But the app shows cash on delivery. The girl realizes it simultaneously, patting empty pockets, panic flooding her expression. She whispers something about hospice. Bills begs me to wait. She'll borrow from a neighbor. I look at my balance for the night, 118 before taxes. I tap override, mark the delivery paid, and hand her the receipt. Company comping this one, I lie. Tears break through her exhaustion. She thanks me in tremors. On the stairwell, I scrub rain from my face, unsure which drops are hers. Which? Mine? Which skies? Back at the warehouse, I log the loss under miscellaneous. Tessa raises an eyebrow. I shrug. She adjusts my shift tally without comment. The next morning, Javier slips a homemade empanada into my tote. No explanation needed. Dawn of competence. 3 months bleed into muscle memory. I stop checking the rear view of my life as often. Caldwell Tower is now a landmark I pass without adrenaline. The skyline remains indifferent to my redemption arc. That is its beauty. It offers anonymity as plentiful as oxygen. One chilly dawn, Tessa calls me into the office. We're launching a pilot program, she says, sliding a laminated badge across the desk. Shift supervisors. You're reliable. Riders listen to you. Interested? The pay bump is small. 50 cents per hour plus an extra slice of any shift-wide bonus. But the word supervisor lands with surprising heft. Not founder, not CEO, but a title unlocked by effort measured in petals and sweat rather than persuasion decks. I accept before doubt can argue. Responsibilities: route triage when storms snarl bridges, conflict mediation when customers contest substitutions, quick tutorials for new hires on scanning barcodes without freezing the app. I pin the badge to my windbreaker, feeling its weight as both parity and progress. A new currency. Near the end of my first supervisor week, I find a brown envelope in my locker. Inside, my bike deposit refund, crisp $50 bills, and a note in Tessa's block script. You've earned wheels of your own. Try Carter's shop on 9th, he'll do you right. I feel a grin bloom across my face, unself-conscious and honest. Saturday morning, I wheel into Carter's Recycle, part bike graveyard, part resurrection lab. Rows of frames dangle from ceiling hooks like chrome skeletons. Carter, a retired mechanical engineer with fingers stained oil black, listens to my range requirements and budget. He rummages through parts, emerges with a forest green frame, and says, "Let's build you something that lasts." For 3 hours we assemble. torquing bolts, truing wheels, threading cables. My hands collect grease under fingernails manicured by months of dishwater, not spa salts. At last, Carter pumps the tires, nods approval, and rings me up. $175 all in. My envelope covers the cost, plus 3 used reflectors and a bell that rings like bright laughter. Outside, I swing a leg over the saddle. The bike responds, light, eager, a tool, not a rental, a partner, not a debt. Pedaling home, wind whistles approval through spoke holes. I pass a storefront window and glimpse my reflection. Neon jacket, scuffed jeans, helmet askew, smile intact. The man staring back is nobody's oracle, nobody's cautionary meme. He is a courier with a plan, a ledger inching toward solvency, and a bicycle paid in full. Ledger entry -1. That night, in the loft illuminated by a single clamp lamp, I create a plain text file in Rebuild Logs, date, March 14th, asset, forest green. E-bike, Carter's custom value, $175 funding, earned. Liability added, 0 net progress. +1 tangible proof that labor servitude. Observation, pride can hide inside spokes and chain grease. Goal, maintain bike. Mentor 2 new riders, hit weekly savings target of $60. I save, stretch sore shoulders, and climb onto the cot. Outside, the city keeps pulsing. Horns, sirens, laughter. Its indifferent soundtrack to billions of private narratives. Mine, once amplified to stadium volume, is now a low-fidelity demo only I can hear. Yet in its rawness, there's melody. Sleep arrives gently, without pharmaceutical assist or exhaustion collapse. As I drift, I think of Carter's parting words. Machines give back exactly what you put in, no more, no less. The same, perhaps, is true of life, stripped of leverage. I'm beginning to prefer the math. Tomorrow the alarm will sound, and I will answer not as emperor, not as exile, but as rider number 134, shift supervisor, owner of 1 green bicycle and a ledger inching toward the black. Humble, yes. Beginning, absolutely. And for the first time, I trust the road ahead because I can feel each bump beneath honest wheels. Chapter 7. Lessons in Labor. Sunrise is no longer a soft glow behind triple-glazed glass. It's a hiss of bike tires on damp asphalt, a thud of crates echoing through the Metro Fresh loading bay, a clipped morning boss from riders who trust me to juggle chaos before caffeine. After 3 months in the orange windbreaker, I have been promoted, unofficially, unceremoniously, to shift captain. The title comes with no corner office, only a battered clipboard, a master key to the battery locker, and the obligation to keep 40 couriers moving even when the sky wants none of us on the road. The arithmetic of bodies. My first lesson: humans are inventories with beating hearts. At 7 a.m., I stand over a chalkboard map divided into 4 delivery cells. Each square represents 20 city blocks, color-coded by order volume. Every rider's name sits on a magnet. May to cell A, Terrence to B, Javier, recovering, rides. A lighter zone. If Terrence's Achilles flares mid-shift, magnets slide and my mental equation scrambles. Coverage. Available legs x battery life. Traffic plus weather. That subtraction sign is real. It grows fangs when drizzle turns to sleet. One Monday, the math implodes. A construction crane snaps a water main on 9th Avenue, flooding half the downtown grid. Buses detour, cops whistle, horns snarl. Within minutes, my tracker shows 15 delayed pings. Customers want answers now, not later. I breathe, tap the radio. All riders, cell B is a moat. Reroute east 2 blocks. Text ETA plus 5 mines. Safety over speed. Repeat, safety over speed. Years ago, I would have barked orders down a polycom from an executive SUV. Today, my voice cracks raw inside a $10 headset. When the last tote arrives dry, when riders sign out grateful and unhurt, I learn the second half of the equation. Leadership, chart data, plus decency. The parable of the wobbling wheel. Maintenance Fridays start at 5:45 a.m. Carter's Recycle opens early for Road Warrior Hour. The shop smells of chain oil and burnt coffee. Riders form a ragged line of bruised rims and frayed brake cables. While Carter adjusts spokes on my forest green frame, he grumbles, "Half these bikes die from neglect, not miles." Neglect, I realize, describes more than bicycles. I ask Carter to teach me truing. He hands me a spoke wrench. We spin the wheel, listening for the faint ping-ping of uneven tension. Twist left, half turn right, test again. 10 passes later, the rim runs straight. My reward is not a certificate, just silence. The hush of a wheel aligned, friction exercised. That night, I set up a pop-up repair bench in the warehouse corner. A milk crate becomes a stand. An LED headlamp substitutes for overheads. Riders queue during lulls, offering takeout dumplings or playlists in barter. I fix sticking shifters, patch tubes, swap brake pads. Word spreads. Shift captain tunes. Your bike for the price of a joke. It's a community MBA. Maintenance by affection. Lesson 2. Systems fail at their weakest screw. Tighten early, tighten often, people included. The Weather Gospel. February arrives wearing razor blades. Wind tunnels along the Hudson, slicing through nylon jackets. Phones die faster in the cold. Mapping apps freeze. Fingertips go numb on brake levers. I draft the Metro Fresh Winter Doctrine in a Google Doc layer rule. 3 thin, 1 thick. Spare. Gloves in every tote. Hot drink partners. Bodega on 23rd. Taco stand on 7th. Free refills for riders. Company reimburses. Tessa green lights it. As long as receipts stay legible. The first storm, we test the doctrine. Riders cycle in pelting snow, ducking under awnings to text updates. Customers. Tip double, sometimes triple, when groceries arrive dry. Management notices a spike in 5-star ratings. They credit our operational resilience. I credit thermal socks and shared thermoses of ginger tea. Lesson 3. Culture is built in bad weather, not launch parties. The economy of kindness. One Thursday, a new hire, Alicia, 21, art school dropout, slams on brakes to avoid a toddler chasing pigeons. She skids, topples, wrist sprained. I sprint 3 blocks pushing my bike, flag a taxi, ride with her to urgent care. While she waits for x-rays, she cries about lost shift pay. I front her 120, half my week's surplus. She tries to refuse. I insist it's a company emergency protocol. It isn't. The following payday, she returns the envelope, wrist in a brace, face set with determination. So your emergency protocol has interest? She jokes, handing me an extra 20. I decline. She slips the bill into a donation jar on the reception counter. Later, I read the label. Riders Relief Fund. Someone started it anonymously. I have a hunch. Lesson 4. Investment isn't only capital. Sometimes it's calories of compassion that yield compound trust. Bridges built with sweat. Metro Fresh pilots a bulk drop program. Palletized groceries to senior living complexes. We need 2 riders per trip, 30-pound loads, 4 flights, of stairs in buildings older than disco. I pair with Terrence, the ex-gymnast, because his Achilles has healed stronger than steel cable. Mid-delivery, an elevator lurches and stops dead between floors. Fluorescent lights flick to emergency red. Terrence laughs. Déjà vu for you? I laugh too, but slower. It echoes my penthouse elevator crash into reality months ago. We pry the doors, climb out, haul totes up 2 flights, delivered to the elderly tenants. They offer us butterscotch candies and stories about disco nights on Coney Island. On the roof, we eat sandwiches under pigeon gossip. As we bike back, Terrence says, "You're weirdly zen for a guy who used to be on magazine covers." I glance sideways. He shrugs. City talks. Doesn't matter. You bail on us during rain? That's what matters. Lesson 5. Reputation can be rewritten line by line, delivery by delivery, heartbeat by heartbeat. The audit of ego. A slick podcast reaches out. Rise and Recode, infamous for exposés on fallen founders. They want a tell-all episode. Their pitch: raw authenticity, healing narrative, big audience. Old reflexes itch for the spotlight, but I stall. I picture riders juggling totes while my voice streams in cafes, reinflating a balloon I worked hard to deflate. I decline. Instead, I draft a Medium post titled, "Why My Pedals Matter More Than My IPO." No viral hooks, no blame games, just 200 words about labor's honesty. It garners modest applause, mostly from courier subreddits. A VC I once courted reposts it with a barbed comment I ignore. May prints a copy, tapes it on the break room wall with a doodle of a bike uplifting a skyscraper. Lesson 6. Silence can be a stronger keynote than any TED Talk. 7. Skillshare at 20 Mepiat evenings. I organize rolling clinics. 10-minute roadside lessons. Javier teaches Spanish phrases for tricky lobby security guards. May demos phone camera angles that make blurry package photos crystal clear. Alicia sketches. Quick mindfulness exercises. Inhale 4 blocks. Exhale 4 blocks. To tame delivery rush anxiety. Each session ends with a whistle blast. We scatter to next orders. Over weeks, the clinics shrink delivery error rates by 15%. Tessa boasts about it at district meetings. Corporate emails request a template. I smile, forwarding a copy with the subject, "Made by writers, shared freely." Lesson 7. Education doesn't require classrooms, only curiosity and shared speed. Ledger turns black. Spring teases warmth. Cherry trees bloom in stray sidewalk planters. My rebuild logs spreadsheet finally shows black ink. Savings. 1,250, debt remainder, shrinking, envelope. Eventually funds a second-hand laptop to replace my glitching relic. I record, date, April 22nd, milestone emergency cushion saw 1 month rent, plus bike parts. Feeling, competent, cautiously ambitious. Next target, $3,000. Seed for future venture TBD. The number is humble by my historical standards, colossal by the standard of nights I once feared an overdraft notice. Money reclaimed its original utility. Freedom to choose, not fireworks to impress. The mirror test. Late one Sunday, I lock my bike under the Williamsburg Bridge and lean against a railing, river-lapping pilings below. Manhattan's skyline blazes. Gold, but Caldwell Tower, now rebranded SimTech HQ, is just one silhouette among many. I open the selfie camera, hold it chest level, and examine the reflection. Wind-reddened cheeks, a thin scar near my temple from a low branch, eyes steady. I ask silently, would I hire this man? The answer arrives before the next wave. Yes, because he shows up. Lesson 9. The only reference letter you carry across careers is the story your eyes tell when no one else is watching. Graduation. Without gowns. The warehouse's fluorescent lights flicker overhead as Tessa gathers us after shift. She produces orange envelopes, Metro Fresh apprenticeship certificates. Our pilot repairs program and rolling clinics have impressed upper management. They're offering 3 riders tuition for a new certified logistics coordinator course. Tessa hands envelopes to May, Javier, and, to my surprise, me. Figured you might want paperwork to match the work you already do, she says. The paper is thick, embossed, smells of ink. No drones, no laser show, no keynote speech. Yet applause ripples, genuine and grainy. We high-five, grease stains and all. Lesson 10. Recognition tastes richer when peppered with sweat, not confetti. What labor teaches that luxury conceals? That night, lying on the loft cot, I recap the syllabus labor has written on my bones. Gravity is a mentor. Cargo straps remind shoulders to respect load limits. Humility does the same for ego. Time is tensile. A minute wasted at an elevator door multiplies down the route. So does a day wasted ignoring financial warnings. Hands remember. grease under. Nails becomes a tactile prayer, a reminder that value is built, not broadcast. Community is compound interest. Every tiny favor, reflective tape, spare glove, phone charger, accrues goodwill that rescues you in a downpour. Narratives mutate. Employer, employee, mentor, student. All hats fit once you pick purpose over title. I save the list, tuck the clipboard under the cot, and drift toward sleep. Tomorrow the map will redraw, batteries will drain. Someone will forget rain pants. We will adapt, because we can, because we have learned through labor that adaptability is just humility with muscles. And somewhere beyond the bridge towers, an idea hovers, still faint, not ready for daylight. An app for neighborhood tutoring? A micro-hub for writer-owned logistics? I don't know yet. But the gears inside my head spin with the quiet confidence of a wheel trued by my own hands. For now, I allow the city's lullaby of distant traffic and river lap to sing me under. Lessons in labor have patched the holes in my identity better than gold leaf ever could. The wheels will turn tomorrow, and I will meet them, on time, on purpose, on the humble path that finally feels like forward. Chapter 8. Sparks of Creativity. I remember the exact night the first real idea returned, like an ember catching dry tinder after months of damp survival. It was past midnight inside Forge Hub, the discount co-working space that smells of burnt, espresso grounds and old circuit boards. Most desks were empty. Only the insomniac cadre remained, faces ghost-lit by laptop glow. I was finishing payroll rosters for my MetroFresh shift when Alicia, her wrist finally free of its brace, slammed a sketchbook beside my keyboard. "Check this," she whispered, uncapping a Sharpie. In 10 bold lines, she drew an alley of low-rise apartments and, above each doorway, a little speech bubble. Math help 6 to 8 p.m., guitar lessons, first hour free, resume reviews tonight. Between buildings, cyclists ferried tiny icons, books, guitars, laptops, like lightning bugs of knowledge. Underneath she scrawled a single phrase. What if delivery also carried skills? The illustration burned itself onto the backs of my eyelids. The idea aligned every lesson labor had drilled into me. Local networks, trust earned face-to-face, needs hiding in plain sight. I felt neurons snap together with a vigor I hadn't tasted since the early Caldwell Tech whiteboard days. The back pocket notebook within an hour. I'd repurposed my Shift Captain clipboard into a makeshift product canvas. Target users, value exchange, rough unit economics scribbled between grocery manifests. We called the nascent concept side door, a two-sided micro-marketplace where neighbors could trade or teach skills within bicycling distance. Couriers, already mapping the streets daily, would act as rolling conduits, handing off a guitar, dropping off printed lesson packets, or simply verifying that, yes, apartment 4B really exists and has a working doorbell. I started carrying a pocket notebook on every delivery. While waiting at elevators or writing red light countdowns, I logged friction points. Which blocks lacked after-school programs? Which senior centers asked riders to troubleshoot phones? Which bodegas had Wi-Fi? Dead zones. The city spoke in data. My pedals were the crawler bots. Kitchen table hack nights. Forge Hub raised nighttime rates, so our R&D lab migrated to my micro loft. 5 of us squeezed around a folding table sticky with ramen broth and chain lube. May wired up a clickable Figma prototype. Javier wrote back-end stubs in Node between empanada batches. Terrence, ever the gymnast, stood because the only spare seat held my bike repair kit. Resources were scavenged, free tiers of cloud hosting, GitHub student packs courtesy of Alicia's deferral letter, and a cracked copy of Sketch donated by an anonymous Discord friend. Laptops whirred precariously close to thermal shutdown. Yet progress felt electric. Every commit a pulse of reclaimed purpose. We adopted a rule. Ship by sunrise. Whatever feature we built overnight had to work. Barely. Awkwardly but tangibly by dawn. At 5 a.m. we'd upload the build to our phones, ride to the all-night diner on 3rd Avenue, and test it over drip coffee that tasted like burnt hope. Bugs surfaced like air bubbles in pancake batter. We popped them with laughter and hot sauce. First, light of validation. Side Door's alpha launch was sublimely unglamorous. A single laminated flyer taped to the lobby of a rent-stabilized building where we delivered bulk groceries. QR code. Tagline. Need a hand? Scan a neighbor. We seeded the marketplace ourselves. I offered basic bike maintenance tutorials. May listed intro Photoshop help. Alicia promised custom avatar sketches for video game streamers. 72 hours later, the first organic listing appeared. ESL conversation practice, $5 per half hour, evenings. An elderly Vietnamese retiree named Mrs. Tran had posted it using a borrowed Android. Her living room window overlooked the alley we rode daily. She just needed students to cross the threshold. We pushed a notification to every rider whose route overlapped her block. Terrence delivered a printed flyer to the local community college. 2 days later, Mrs. Tran's listing showed booked. Payment processed through our hacked-together Stripe relay. $4.50 to Mrs. Tran after fees, 50 cents into the platform float. Numbers microscopic. Significance cosmic. A real service had moved from need to offer to match to money without any yachts, press releases, or laser drones. Just code, cadence, and kindness. I sat on the warehouse loading dock staring at the dashboard. GMV $5. My eyes stung strangely. For the first time since the Halliday fiasco, a metric felt holy again. Guerrilla growth, marketing budget, 0. So we hijacked our existing supply chain. Every grocery tote left Metro fresh with a side door referral sticker. Every rider received a push notification prompting them to photograph community bulletin boards, scanning for skill swap flyers. We mapped church basement classes, public library tutoring hours, dance studio off-peak slots, feeding metadata into side doors, borrow a room category. Alicia designed beacon bags, small mesh pouches, cyclists clipped to backpacks, containing folded brochures about side door. When riders stopped at locked lobbies or concierge desks, they'd leave a brochure. No spam, just unlock local talents. Ask your neighbor. Side door app. Gamified leaderboards awarded extra tips to the rider whose bag generated the most new signups each week. Within a month, we'd hit 300 users across 3 zip codes. Churn sat high, curiosity tourists, but repeat transactions slowly climbed. The curve resembled a shy sapling, but it was alive. Tech meets texture, sustainable. Marketplaces need trust. Instead of star ratings, ripe for bias, Terrence suggested proof stamps. After each completed session, the courier snapped a photo of teacher and learner giving a thumbs up beside the delivered material. Guitar, worksheet, crochet yarn, whatever. The image blurred faces by default, showing only the object and a timestamp watermark. Human enough for authenticity, private enough to deter trolls. Complaints dropped by 40%. Simultaneously, Javier replaced pushy onboarding forms with story paths, cartoon panels drawn by Alicia leading users through scenarios. Sarah needs help filing taxes. Jamal can explain forms. Call and response. Micro-stories drew in people who feared corporate interfaces. Conversion rate doubled overnight. Forge Hub's founder, noticing our GitHub traffic, offered 3 months of free nighttime desks if we'd mention the space in a footer link. We negotiated extra server credits instead. Every kilobyte saved felt like stashed capital. The first crisis of boundaries. Success, even pocket-sized, attracts shadows. A user listed prescription pickup cash bonus, legal gray zone. Another posted crypto investment seminar, 200 HR. Predatory. Moderation became firefighting. At 4 a.m., we drafted community guidelines distilled to 12 words: teach, learn, fix, share. No scams, no contraband, no hate, ever. Writers became moderators on wheels. If a listing smelled rotten, a locked suitcase for computer tutoring, a suspicious request for overnight cash drop, the courier flagged it in-app. 3 flags triggered a freeze pending manual review. Labor enforced ethics. Code merely amplified vigilance. Lesson: innovation must outrun exploitation by one pedal stroke. Always. Meeting with a tiny giant. One rainy Thursday, Mr. Lugo, the bodega owner who refilled our thermoses all winter, asked why our stickers kept appearing on his door. We explained side door between customers purchasing lottery tickets. He listened, stroking a graying mustache, then pointed to the lottery machine. State takes half those dollars before winners see a dime. You charge 10%, sometimes 5%. Fair. He reached under the counter, retrieved a cash box, and counted out $800 in wrinkled 20s. Here, for server bills or burritos. Just promise you'll add a neighborhood errand category. Seniors here need meds picked up, light bulbs changed. The first external capital injection into side door arrived smelling of coffee and floor cleaner. I drafted a simple safe note on my cracked laptop screen. $800 converts into future equity at a 5% discount. Lugo squinted, waved it away. Too many words, just keep the lights on. He insisted on a single-page receipt, amount, date, signature, and a hand-drawn smiley face for good luck. We framed it in the warehouse break room next to May's printout of my Medium post. Pitch deck in a pizza box. Spring bled into early summer. Side door reached 1,200 active users, 30% retention month over month. Micro revenues still couldn't pay full-time salaries, yet momentum buzzed. Forge Hub announced a demo night for underrepresented founders. We applied. The requirement: a 10-slide pitch deck and a 3-minute live demo. Slide templates triggered PTSD from the old world, so Alicia spray painted a clean pizza box white. Inside, we arranged index cards, market size estimates, rider logistics advantage, proof stamp trust layer. The demo? Javier rode onto stage in full courier gear, handed the MC a ukulele, and projected a live booking for Mrs. Tran's ESL lessons to the screen overhead. Audience chuckles turned to applause when the payment ding echoed the hall. A Civic Tech seed fund manager lingered after. She admired our bootstrap spirit but warned margins looked thin. I countered, "Margins grow when trust compresses distance. We deliver that compression on 2 wheels." She requested a proper data room. We promised it after next bug squash sprint. No term sheets yet, but eyes widened. Side door had jumped from alleyways into polite conversation. A quiet reckoning. 1. Late night, alone in the loft, I opened an untouched folder on my hard drive. Old pitches. Decks from the Caldwell Tech days shimmered. Gradient backgrounds, audacious TAMs, photos of me in designer suits. I scrolled, half nauseous, half nostalgic, until I reached a slide titled Democratizing Human Potential. Bold claim, 0. Substance. I toggled over to the side door metrics dashboard. 3 ESL sessions booked, 2 resume help meetups confirmed, 1 emergency grocery drop request accepted by Terrence on his night off. Tiny numbers, yes, but each line echoed a real living room, a solved worry, a shared skill. For once, the gulf between mission statement and actual impact measured in millimeters. I closed the Caldwell folder for good and backed up side doors. Code to 3 locations. Then I opened Rebuild Logs and typed date, June 10th, event. First external funding, 800, plus 1K users. Metric, 2 under 1 completed sessions, 97 unique neighbors teaching or learning. Reflection, creativity reborn through constraints. Scarcity sharpens imagination. Next steps. Formalize rider equity pool, community cap table. Pilot Lugo's neighborhood errands. Seek non-extractive capital or stay micro-profitable. Flickers into flame. The following evening, Mrs. Tran sent a voice message via side door chat. Her English, halting weeks ago, now flowed with newfound cadence. Ethan, my student passed citizenship interview today. Said I helped. I feel big. The pause crackled with emotion. Thank you. I replayed the clip 5 times, volume low, heart loud. That sound, joy scaled to a single household, was worth every frostbitten finger, every greasy all-nighter. It was the spark creative work is supposed to ignite, but often buries under VC slide decks. Outside my window, the city hummed as ever. Sirens, laughter, rooftop bass lines. Yet somewhere within that tapestry ran invisible filaments connecting stranger to stranger. Filament I had helped solder with code no bigger than an email, but strong enough to carry hope. Sparks, I realized, are promiscuous. They leap from ramen splattered keyboards to community classrooms, from courier handlebars to citizenship oaths. My duty now was simple: shield the flame from the gales of scale, feed it honest fuel, let it spread only where it gave warmth. I powered down the laptop, closed the loft window, and lay on the cot. Tomorrow's to-do list loomed: error logging, customer support rotation, battery swap schedules. But fatigue felt different now. It was not the weight of hauling dreams too heavy for their chassis. It was the pleasant ache of building something that might actually matter. As sleep approached, the idea glowed steady behind my eyelids. No longer a lone ember, but a small, contained fire, enough to see by, enough to gather around. And in its light, I finally saw a path that did not dead-end at applause, but opened into a workshop where creativity could hammer purpose into form again and again for anyone willing to lift the tools. Chapter 9: The Rebuild. The morning the rebuild truly begins, I wake before the alarm, not from anxiety, but anticipation. The loft's radiator ticks like a metronome. Sunlight slips between fire escape slats, brushing the forest green bike by the door. I brew instant coffee, open the side door dashboard, and watch the midnight metric settle. 1,247 bookings this week, 204 active neighbors, 91% session success rate. The numbers are still small by venture standards, yet each digit is a lived exchange, a trumpet lesson, a resume review, a grocery run for a homebound aunt. They feel heavier and holier than any seven-figure vanity metric I once flaunted. The quiet investor. The catalyst arrives disguised as routine. On a drizzly Thursday, I duck into Pierfront Cafe, the waterfront bistro where riders swap battery packs and budget croissants. While waiting for my refill, I notice Rosalie Kane, silver-haired, wire-rimmed spectacles, annotating a printout of our Medium article. She owns the boutique venture studio that funded the cafe's community art wall. "Ethan," she says without preamble, "your platform reminds me of pre-IPO Etsy. Messy, earnest, unfairly underestimated. Let's talk capital. 2 lattes later, we trade napkin math. With a $250 exceed, side door can migrate off free tier servers, hire 1 full-time engineer, and pilot 3 new neighborhoods. In return, Rosalie asks for only 7% equity on one condition: a 10% rider equity pool locked into the charter. Labor equity, she explains. If the people moving the wheels don't share upside, the engine stalls. The clause echoes everything I've learned in neon-lit break rooms. We shake hands that same afternoon. A week later, wire confirmation lands in our credit union account. No champagne. We toast with refill coffee and day-old biscotti. Incorporation Dayside Door Labs, LLC, files paperwork from a public library terminal because the courthouse Wi-Fi is down. Alicia designs a cap table poster in marker and duct tapes it to the warehouse break room fridge. Founders, 55%, Rider Equity Trust, 10%, Rosalie Kane Fund, 7%, Future. Employee Pool, 10%, Community Microinvestors, 18%, reserved for people like Mr. Lugo. It's lopsided, naive, and gloriously anti-PowerPoint. Writers photograph it, posting "Die Your Equity on Wheels" on their private Discord. For them, stock is no longer a rumor from skyscrapers. It's a hand-drawn promise in a fridge aisle that smells of sriracha and missorted produce. A home above salvage. Forge Hub can't contain us, and my loft won't pass fire code. We sublease a windowed mezzanine atop Fulton Marine Salvage, 3 blocks from Metro Fresh. Rent, $200 a month, half in cash, half in bike repair vouchers for the owner's Vespa fleet. The space leaks when it rains, but the rafters are strong enough for Alicia's whiteboard murals, and the freight elevator doubles as a bike rack. Javier labels the Wi-Fi router "better than Venture." May strings holiday LEDs that blink whenever a transaction clears Stripe. The office furniture is cobbled from Craigslist: a dented steel table, 4 mismatched chairs, and a vintage drafting desk that smells of cedar and sea salt. Terrence christens the place Dock Zero, where ideas unload. Building version 2.00. Month 1, Backend. Javier ports our spaghetti node scripts to a lean Go service, slashing page load times below 400 ms. Design. Alicia conducts sidewalk interviews, sketching personas in chalk on the warehouse floor. Ops. Terrence designs a courier-to-classroom pipeline. Riders can schedule drop-in lessons between grocery runs, optimizing deadhead miles. Month 2, we launch verified neighbor badges. Background-checked providers earn a tiny house-shaped icon. Sign-ups spike 18%. Local PTAs invite us to pilot after-school chess clubs. Wallet 1.0 debuts. Earnings auto-split. 85% to the provider, 10% to the writer facilitator, 5% to the platform. Payments settle daily. Liquidity keeps trust taut. Month. 3 server costs triple. Rosalie greenlights an extra $25K bridge to future-proof infrastructure. Regulatory compliance knocks. City Hall demands proof of liability coverage. We negotiate a group policy pegged to session volume, costing pennies per booking but unlocking institutional contracts. Throughout, night shifts remain our stress test. Riders return at 2 a.m., collapsing on beanbags, listing bugs, push notifications, stuck, address autofill glitching on hyphenated streets. We patch, redeploy, pour more coffee. Growth without billboards. Marketing stays guerrilla. Sidewalk stencils, eco-paint QR codes near subway exits reading, "Learn something before dinner." Skill swaps in the park. Saturday pop-ups where seniors teach trick knitting while college kids trade TikTok editing tips. Couriers circulate free lemonade. Every cup sleeve bears the side door logo. Library Wi-Fi splash. Pages, we donate routers. In return, splash pages prompt patrons to offer a skill, find a tutor. By autumn, monthly sessions pass 10,000. Press notices. A local blog dubs us DoorDash for knowledge. NPR's microsegment calls one of our ESL librarians the new wave of gig education. Investors inquire, but we stall. Rosalie's check still covers burn, and we prefer the quiet curve of sustainable growth. 6. Culture in code. We codify Slack emojis. We bug squashed. Courier heroics. Neighbor story. MVP shipped. Hydrate, you maniacs. Every Friday afternoon, shift lull, we hold retro ride, the YI. Team cycles a 5-mile loop, ending at Mr. Lugo's bodega for iced horchata. Mileage is reimbursed in crypto tokens redeemable for goofy side door swag, reflective ankle bands, spoke lights, Alicia's limited print comics. Shared rituals harden into culture. New hires, 2 junior engineers from a boot camp, 1 part-time accountant. Learn the creed on day 1. Build small, ride far, leave no neighbor behind. The first big stress test. December drops a blizzard that buries delivery vans. The City grinds down to muffled tire tracks and blinking caution lights. Side doors bookings triple overnight. Seniors need medicine. Parents need homework help for snowbound kids. Musicians offer virtual carol lessons from cramped kitchens. Servers strain, then wobble. Javier dozes over curl logs. May hand codes. A static status page. Riders brave slick streets, forming chains. One pedals 2 blocks, hands off a tote to the next who owns snow tires. Alicia maps relay points in real time. We survived 72 hours without a single failed delivery. City Hall tweets praise. Local news runs a segment showing our couriers hauling hot soup to shelters. In the Dock Zero mezzanine, we cheer through chapped lips and numb toes. It feels like ringing the bell on a stock exchange floor, but the only bell is the bike bell on my old forest green frame. Reconciling with yesterday. In February, a glossy magazine requests an interview. From Bubble to Bootstrap, Ethan Caldwell's second act. I agree. On one condition, the photo shoot happens in the salvage loft, not a studio. The journalist arrives expecting a redemption cliché. Instead, she finds Terrence calibrating laser cutters for our new 3D printed Braille flashcards project. She asks how it feels to lead again. I say, leadership isn't altitude, it's airtime of listening. The quote prints beside a photo of Alicia doodling algorithms on a corrugated steel wall. Caldwell Tech gets a passing mention, but the headline spotlights side doors rider equity. Pool. The past's shadow shrinks another inch. A week later, a former board member emails, "Thinking of mentoring early-stage founders? Any advice?" I reply politely, then archive the thread. Some doors stay closed by choice. A neighborhood fair. Spring thaws into soft breezes. We host the first side door neighbor fair on the abandoned aircraft carrier deck, once branded as my floating accelerator. Now, entry is free. Tents host mini lessons, origami, tax prep, salsa basics. Riders escort seniors along wheelchair-friendly ramps. Kids chase kites Alicia printed with QR codes. By sunset, 4,000 people mill beneath string lights powered by solar panels, May bartered from a hardware hackathon. Rosalie stands beside me on the prow, surveying the scene. "You know," she says, "scale eventually demands bigger engines." I nod. "But maybe engines can stay human-sized," I answer. "Many small gears instead of one massive turbine." She grins. "We'll prototype both." As the last booth packs up, Mrs. Tran finds me, presents a handwritten note. Thank you for making my street feel bigger. Her grandson translates. The rest, she saved enough tutoring income to visit family in Ho Chi Minh City. I struggle to respond. Gratitude knots my throat tighter than any shareholder speech ever did. Ledger entry jar 037. That night, I log the fare in rebuild logs, date, May 3rd milestone, 25,000 users, 12 neighborhoods, break-even month, capital, 105K of seed untouched, team, 9 core, 64 writer moderators. Reflection, growth measured in gratitude scales sanely. Ego remains a risk vector. Monitor uptime carefully. Next goals. Formalize micro-investor round, community preferred. Expand verified neighbor to sign language interpreters. Launch side door school night pilot with 3. Public libraries. I close the laptop, push back from the thrift store desk, and glance around Dock Zero. Sleeping bags dot corners. Code scrolls unattended on a monitor. Someone's ramen steeping smells like home. Sleep, finally earned. I ride the forest green bike across the quiet riverfront. The skyline glitters, each tower indifferent yet familiar. Somewhere in that matrix Caldwell Tower still stands, rebadged, repainted, and irrelevant to my pulse. My breath fogs in the May chill. My legs pump steady. The city no longer dwarfs me. We move in parallel, gears meshing. As I lock up in the loft stairwell, I realize rebuild is a misnomer. Nothing here is reconstructed from the old scaffold. It's all new timber, fresh nails, stranger-sourced blueprints. The only salvage is the lesson set. I crawl onto the cot, muscles humming. Through cracked blinds, dawn pries at the horizon. Tomorrow we debug, iterate, deliver. Tomorrow, we might stumble under payload we can't yet imagine. But tonight the rebuild stands. Not finished, not flawless, but upright and alive. And so do I. Chapter 10. A Purposeful Horizon. At 4:43 a.m., the city is a quiet circuit board, street lamps glowing like diodes, truck engines humming like slow fans. I pedal through the hush toward Dock Zero, pockets heavy with nothing but a phone and one silver key. This key no longer opens penthouse marble or silicon sanctuaries. It lifts the roll-up gate of a salvage loft startup that smells of sea salt, bike grease, and hot solder. I have never carried an object that felt more valuable. Dawn audit. Inside, the team is already awake. May crouches beneath a grow light, fiddling with the solar swap prototype. Battery docks that riders can unlatch from street posts to trade depleted power packs for fresh ones. Javier naps in a hammock strung between rafters, laptop balanced on his chest, server logs flickering green. Alicia thumbs through sketches for the fall marketing push. Every page features neighbor faces, not brand mascots. Terrence leads a stretching routine for rookies who cycled the graveyard shift. These scenes used to spark urgent checklists inside me. Optimize this, monetize that. Now they settle like sunrise on still water. The system hums because people own its hum, not because I orchestrate every note. The unsolicited term sheet. At 7:10 a.m., my inbox pings with a subject line heavy enough to bend the air. Subject: Sim Ventures proposal. Confidential Sim Ventures. The growth equity arm of the conglomerate that rebranded Caldwell Tower offers $9 million for a 35% stake, accompanied by expansion capital, to scale globally within 18 months. Their slide deck is pristine. Economies of scale, centralized courier fleets, algorithmic price optimization. They propose migrating Side Door to cloud regions on 3 continents, translating the app into 42 languages, introducing surge pricing for premium time slots. I hear the old siren call, exponential curves, headlines, rings of applause. But underneath, a chill. Their model slashes rider commissions to 6%, guts the rider equity pool, replaces proof stamps with AI sentiment scoring. Trust swapped for throughput. I forward the PDF to the founders channel with a single note. Discuss tonight. No rush. A letter from Mrs. Tran. The mail arrives mid-morning, wedged under the salvage gate. A pale blue envelope from Ho Chi Minh City. Inside, a postcard shows lanterns floating on a river. On the back, Mrs. Tran's shaky script. Dear Ethan and Side Door Riders, I am home after 27 years. Because your project gave me students, I saved airfare. I taught them English. They taught me courage. My grandson says you turned bikes into bridges. With gratitude, Chitron. The card circulates. Riders touch it like a relic, then pin it next to the cap table poster. The room grows quiet. Quiet the way chapels grow when stained glass first catches sun. Consensus on the rooftop. We convene at dusk on the salvage yard roof, folding chairs perched amid rusted antennae. In the west, skyline neon flickers on. In the east, the river exhales silver. Rosalie dials in via speaker. Javier begins, tone measured. $9 million buys servers, health insurance, hazard pay. May counters. It also buys control. Alicia flips Sim's deck to a slide showing machine-ranked instructor quality tiers. She circles the bottom tier, rate capped to pennies. This makes neighbors into inventory. Terrence says nothing for a long time, then taps his heeled Achilles. I can ride 30 miles again because a stranger once fronted my rent. Algorithm won't do that. Rosalie chuckles softly through the phone. Messy human networks frighten institutional money. That's your moat. We vote unanimous. I draft the reply. Thank you for the confidence. We decline. I add a PS. Mission return exceeds capital return in our calculus. Hit send. It feels like exhaling ballast. Open sourcing the engine. With the decision made, momentum tilts forward. Javier proposes releasing Sidedoor's core logistics scheduler as open source. If we want community resilience, he argues, let's let communities fork the code. Legal drafts a copyleft license requiring rider equity reciprocity. We call it the Wheelshare license. Publishing day feels like releasing captive birds. Forks appear within hours. From Detroit bike collectives, Nairobi tutoring circles, a women-led cooperative in Jaipur. Each sends patches back upstream, improved localization, lower bandwidth modes, a Hindi-English glossary. Network effect reimagined, not a moat, but an estuary feeding many rivers. 6. Neighborhood Equity Round. We turn to funding on our terms. Mr. Lugo hosts an info night in his bodega after closing. Fluorescent lights buzz. Shelves of plantain chips witness our pitch. Goal: raise $400 K structure, community safe, capped at $15 million valuation, 20% discount, minimum $50 buy-in. De-risk. No dividends until break-even, plus 3 consecutive profitable quarters. Rights. Each investor receives 1 vote on mission-critical pivots, regardless of check size. We print paper forms for residents uncomfortable with digital wallets. Within 2 weeks, grandmothers and gig musicians and school janitors pledge $3,000 K. Corporate lawyers call it quaint. We call it runway anchored in the streets we actually serve. The library at midnight. Our next expansion target is not a city, but an institution. Public libraries after hours. We pilot in 3 branches, wiring study rooms with Ryder's solar swap docks, and installing lockbox kiosks for lesson material. From 8 p.m. to midnight, Side Door converts silent aisles into micro-campuses. Terrence leads Stretch Your Screen. Shoulders clinics between the biography stacks. May hosts Python for Poets under a mural of Langston Hughes. Alicia teaches teens how to animate graphic novels, projecting panels on a blank wall. Librarians, often underfunded and overextended, call us the night shift of knowledge. Foot traffic doubles, vandalism drops. A city funding committee schedules a site visit. Metrics that matter. By autumn, dashboards flash milestones. Sessions this month, 42,031. Cumulative writer earnings, $1.2 million average neighbor radius per match, 0.8 miles. Delivery carbon offset, post-solar swap, EST, 18 tons. But the metric we celebrate is on a sticky note Terrence slaps above the coffee urn. 99.4% first name retention. Of the last 10,000 bookings, 9,940 reviews mention the provider or courier by name, proof that Side Door is still intimacy at scale. Confronting a ghost. One chilly November evening, I cycle past Caldwell Tower. The Façade carries a holographic ad for a VR fitness startup. No trace of my mural, no glint of LiDAR rainbows, just commodity pixels. I dismount, stare, feel nothing. Relief floods in. The edifice no longer houses my regret. It is just glass hiring gravity to stand tall. Across the street, a courier in SimVenture's livery waits at a red light, insulated box strapped to a moped. Our eyes meet. I nod. He nods back. The light changes. We ride opposite directions. 2 data points on divergent graphs. 10. The summit in a school gym. 6 months after rejecting Sim's offer, we host the inaugural Wheelshare Summit in a Queens middle school gymnasium because convention centers cost money better spent on rider health insurance. Folding chairs seat 500 visitors, community platform founders, courier cooperatives, local officials. Keynote speaker, Mrs. Chi Tran, who now teaches Side Door's remote ESL pedagogy to 70 instructors worldwide. She stands at the mic, voice quavering yet steady. I taught English to survive. Side Door taught me I could help others thrive. The room rises in ovation. I wipe my eyes, remembering boardroom applause that once felt obligatory, hollow. This sound is thicker, stitched from threadbare triumphs and mended hopes. After workshops on rider safety tech and community equity law, we break for lunch catered by side-door cooks who exchange meals for accounting lessons. Ravioli sits beside kimchi, jerk chicken beside vegan biryani, culinary proof of our network's fractal diversity. The closing panel circles one question: how big is too big? We agree size is secondary. Extraction is the true enemy. Our compass should track return on humanity, not multiples on capital. The audience records the mantra, scrawls it on notebooks, tattoos it in memory. Ledger entry 057. That night, back at the loft, I log summit day date, November 17th. Milestone. Wheelshare Summit, 12 partner cities, community safe closed at $428,000. Reflection. Growth swelling. Growth talk branching. Rejecting Sims saved culture at cost of speed. Worth it. Ego check. Interview requests rising. Remember airtime of listening. Next horizon goals. Expand solar swap to partner cities. Launch micro pension. Fun for riders after 2K hours. Open source curriculum builder. Year-end break-even buffer. 4 months OPEX. I click save, lean back, and listen to pipes rumble. Still the same nickel-colored air, yet scented now with distant cardamom from May's late-night chai. A ride into tomorrow. At 2:02 a.m. my phone vibrates. Emergency request. Neonate formula. Urgent delivery. Hospital pharmacy to a 5th floor walk-up. 1.1 miles. I could assign it to a night rider, but my legs itch for purpose. Outside, the air is tack-sharp, stars bright in winter clarity. Pedaling, I notice city details usually blurred by daylight. Steam swirling like script from manhole vents. The faint hum of streetcar power lines. Window silhouettes of strangers chasing sleep or tending newborns. I arrive, climb creaking stairs, hand the parcel to a bleary-eyed father who murmurs 4 languages worth of gratitude in one breath. As I descend, soft infant cries meet the rustle of formula packets, a duet of fragility and survival. Back on the bike, I glide toward the river. The horizon blushes pre-dawn lavender. Somewhere behind me, servers ping, metrics aggregate, capital accrues. Ahead, just light, widening softly, silently, like a welcome mat unrolling into the next day. It occurs to me then that purpose is not a destination, but a vector, Direction plus refusal to stand still. The rebuild was never meant to recreate a summit. It was meant to chart onward movement no matter the grade. And now, wheels humming, lungs clear. I understand the horizon doesn't need to be conquered. It needs to be followed. So I follow it. One revolution, one delivery, one neighbor at a time, trusting that if we keep our bearings true, the line where sky meets earth will keep shifting just out of reach, always inviting, forever purposeful, and beautifully alive. Great work today! Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.